Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Couchbrotatopodcast. Coming up on today's show, Adam and I take a dive into the adventurous world of Indiana Jones with the third installment of the iconic series, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Released in 1989 and directed by Steven Spielberg, the film follows our favorite archaeologist, played by Harrison Ford, as he teams up with his father, portrayed by James Bond himself, Sean Connery, in a quest to find the Holy Grail. Filled with heart-pounding action, witty banter, and unforgettable moments, The Last Crusade offers a perfect blend of history, mythology, and family dynamics. So, grab your fedora and whip and join us as we explore the magic and excitement of this cinematic classic coming up right now on the Couch Brotato Podcast.
On Wednesday, May 24th, Paramount Pictures invites you to have the adventure of your life.
Dad! Dad! What?
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Are you crazy? Don't go between them! Go between them! Are you crazy?
Harrison Ford. Sean Connery.
You call this archaeology?
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Rated PG-13. Starts Wednesday, May 24th at theaters everywhere.
Noticed I came in a little hot with that opening number. When I went to hit soundboard, I cranked it all the way up. So if that's a little loud, I do apologize. What's going on, gang? Of course, this is Couch Potato Podcast. Joining me, as always, is Adam. How's it going, man?
It's going great. I'm ready to talk some movies.
Yeah. Today, we've got an absolute banger on tap for you guys and gals. Recently just celebrated its 35th anniversary. Forgive me if my math is off. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not the dude from A Beautiful Mind. I'm not crazy, nor am I smart at math.
Yeah, we're just average here on the Couch Potato Podcast.
Well, you're above average. I'm average.
I don't know. I think we're both above average in my book.
If average is 50, I'd be like 52. Just slightly
Still above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enough to graduate high school and not be a total embarrassment. But we are talking Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade today, which is Indiana Jones. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show, is my all-time favorite movie character, so I was pretty excited to talk about this one today. Adam, I know you share an affinity for the character as well. When was the first time you seen this movie?
Oh, man. I think I saw it on VHS. Did not see it in theaters. I was not born. I saw it on VHS. And it was in the 90s still. So I was rather young, but man, was it a blast. I saw it after the other two. Like, I had a movie marathon that day. So I got introduced to Indiana Jones with all three movies.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty good way to get introduced, is watching all three of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fantastic. And I mean, I was probably a little traumatized by the melting faces in the first one, but by the end of this one, I didn't care that the dude kind of dried out. So I was desensitized by that point.
Well, you also had a guy getting his heart ripped out in Temple of Doom. Yeah. That's probably more traumatic than the face melting sequence in Raiders.
Right. Yeah. And also burned alive without a heart for whatever reason.
Yes, I mean, if you could survive Temple of Doom, you're good.
Yeah, for sure. That's probably the first time I ever watched.
I notice whenever I ask you these questions, you can tell like the age discrepancy between me and you, because it seems like a lot of these movies that we do, I've seen them in theaters before you were even born.
Well, to be fair though, it was my watching it was only a few years after you saw it in theaters. So, I mean, I'm not that much younger. I just slightly.
This was a movie theater going experience for me. I remember I got to see this at the drive-ins.
Okay.
That's
a good movie to see it. Right.
I tried to convince my mom because it came out, I think it was on a weekday. Because I don't know why they don't do this so much anymore, but they used to do like big movie releases on like a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just to kind of, cash in on like a big title. They don't really do that so much anymore, but I tried to convince my mom to let me stay home from school so she could take me to see it. And she obviously turned me down, but, yeah, man, like I fucking love Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's kind of a little bit of a slight rehash of Raiders, a little bit more comedic, but it kind of has more of the that fun vibe that was missing off Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
which Spielberg, I think, like I remember reading in the research, that was kind of what he was trying to do, because he felt that Temple of Doom was just a little too dark and morbid.
Yeah.
For him, so he wanted to get back to what made Raiders so good.
I think I was also reading, and hopefully I'm not cutting into your facts or anything, but I was reading that George Lucas was going through a divorce, and that was like the after effects of his divorce influenced Temple of Doom a little bit.
Jesus Christ, George.
So, yeah, I could see why Steven wanted to make it more fun. Like, yeah, sorry, like, George, we're taking this a different direction.
But yeah, like it kind of makes you wonder. Like, she broke my heart, so I would rip hers out of her chest. Like, Jesus, save that for a movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved this. I think what makes it such a great movie is just the impeccable chemistry between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Very underrated movie duo, especially from the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it was kind of weird that they were so close in age, but Sean Connery was his father.
Yeah, well, I got that in the Did You Know part of the show. But yeah, not super big, but yeah, they were only like 12 years apart.
Yeah.
So they're more like brothers versus father and son.
It makes it for a good duo, though, I think.
Well, the characters are actually Eskimo brothers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they both had a fling with Elsa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yep.
But yeah, fun movie. I was checking out the box office for this too, and I noticed that this seems to 1989, which I don't know if I'm on record as saying this, but if I haven't, I'm going to say now, incredibly underrated movie year. Absolute bangers that came out in 1989. But I noticed that 89 was kind of the jumpstart for a trend that seems to have carried into movies currently.
The
number one movie in North America was a comic book film, the Batman.
Yeah.
And there was a ton of sequels, at least for 1989. I mean, it's very tame compared to what we get nowadays. But in 1989, we had the third Indiana Jones movie. We had Lethal Weapon 2. We had a Ghostbusters 2. Back to the Future 2. We had National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which was the third movie in that series. Star Trek 5. We had Karate Kid 3. We had a Nightmare on Elm Street. It was The Dream Child, which I think is 5.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And there was also a Halloween and The Fly 2. Those were just some of the sequels that came out this year. And then, like, of course, now most of the movies that come out, I think just the next few weeks, well, just if you count Memorial Day weekend, we've got, even before that, we had a Planet of the Apes sequel, Mad Max sequel. Mm-hmm. We have Bad Boys 2 coming out this week. We have an Inside Out 2 coming out later. I think it's next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to throw a rock at a box office and not hit a movie that isn't part of an established IP. But we've talked about that a lot on this podcast.
Right. So, if you want to get our thoughts on it, just check out many of our episodes. You can hear on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Cheap plug of the episode. 9 minutes in.
There we go.
There was also a James Bond movie that came out that year too, License to Kill, and Fletch Lives. Wow, yeah, there was a ton of sequels in there.
But also, all from those movies, we have done Batman and Back to the Future and a Lethal Weapon movie, all available on any platform you get your podcasts. There you go. Second cheap plug.
That's right. And we did National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation too.
Oh yeah, we did.
Damn, I'm just going down the list. Major League was out in 1989 too. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, The Burbs. Also, you can hear that where you get your podcasts. We've done that one too. So yeah, tons of good stuff, man. Roadhouse.
Man, 89, we've done Roadhouse.
Very underrated movie. But I think Last Crusade, I think it's between that and Batman is my favorite movies of that year.
Yeah. That's hard to pick. That's really hard.
Yeah. And with this one compared to Raiders, I think Raiders is the better film. We actually inducted it into our action. It was inaugural inductee into the Couch Potato Podcast Action Movie Hall of Fame. You can also listen to that episode wherever you get your podcast. Dan, we've got like 4 now.
Yeah.
We're going to stop while we're ahead. We're just going to people are going to God, that's all they're going to do is plug the old stuff. Yeah. But I find myself, when I want to watch an Indiana Jones movie, I seem to gravitate more towards Last Crusade than I do Raiders. If I'm going to choose between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's the comedy in it.
Yeah.
Has a lot to do with it.
More. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot more comedy in this one. I feel like in Raiders, you establish the character, and so they don't have those beats down quite as often. But this is the third movie in, and of course Steven Spielberg wanted to make it a little bit more lighthearted, so he sprinkled the comedy in there and was able to do it without damaging the storyline.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like, that one. I think I've seen Last Crusade more than I've seen Raiders, but this was also the first one I got to see in a movie theater too. I didn't get to see Temple of Doom. I was a little too young, and then of course Raiders was I was 3, I think, when that came out. So I didn't get a chance to see the first 2 in a theater right away, but I got to see The Last Crusade. So maybe that's part of it too, just the nostalgia part of it. Like, that's the first time I got to see him on a big screen. But
yeah, that's cool.
You ready to rip into some of these categories?
Oh, for sure. Let's go.
All right. If you're wondering what the fuck is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade about, well, let me tell you, kids. When the father of Indiana Jones is kidnapped by Nazis in their effort to locate the sacred Holy Grail, it's up to Indy to save his father, save the Grail, and save the day.
Oh, pretty succinct.
Yeah. And another cool thing about Indy is fucking Nazis. He gets to kick the shit out of Nazis again. Anytime that happens in a movie, sign me up. Those dirtbags get the shit kicked out of them for 2 hours. That's 2 hours well spent.
Can you name another movie that the Nazis are I feel like when you think of movie villains that are Nazis, this is the first movie that I think of.
That's Inglourious Bastards would have to be in there because Hans Landa.
Yeah.
That's usually the first one I gravitate towards.
But every time I think of okay, Nazis are the bad guys, Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, Inglourious Bastards gives it a good run.
Yeah.
Tail of the tape, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is rated PG-13. This was released on May the 24th, 1989. Stars Harrison Ford, Sean Connery, Allison Doody, Julian Glover, John Rhys Davies, and Denholm Elliott. Directed by the legendary Steven Spielberg. Rotten Tomatoes score of 84% from critics and 94% from audiences. The consensus, lighter and more comedic than its predecessor. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade returns the series to the brisk, serial adventure of raiders while adding the dynamic double act between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery. Budget was $42 million, made $474.2 million worldwide. Did win an Academy Award for Best Sound Effects Editing and was nominated for Best Original Score and Best Sound at the 62nd Annual Academy Awards, and you can watch this on Disney+. Did Williams win Best Original Score for Raiders?
I don't know. The man has a lot of Academy Award nominations, so
He probably just gives them out of Christmas gifts at this point.
yeah.
It's like, here's the
see.
one I got from Close Encounters. Here, Dave. You can have it.
Look at awards here so 4 Oscars were won with Raiders. Winners, Best Art, Best Sound, Best Film Editing, and Best Effects.
Oh, he got nominated for Best Original Score in this. So I imagine he got it for Raiders too.
Yeah, he got nominated. Best Music, Original Score, John Williams, but it did not win.
Yeah, he won for Fiddler on the Roof, Jaws, Star Wars, E.T., and Schindler's List. God damn. The man is the GOAT. I mean, without question.
Yeah.
But did you know these are some interesting facts and tidbits on the production behind the scenes making of the movie? As we discussed earlier, Sean Connery, being cast as Indy's dad, was only 12 years older than Harrison Ford. And I guess the crew made sure that Connery's beard was gray or white, and they made Sean move much slower and more deliberate than Harrison Ford to kind of, I guess, make it seem more realistic that Sean Connery was old enough to be Indy's dad in this.
Yeah.
That still blows my mind, though, that like Harrison Ford is like in his 80s now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Connery, when he passed away, was what, 90?
Oh man, I don't even remember.
I know he was in his 90s.
So. Yeah.
Sean Connery was always Steven Spielberg's first choice to play Indy's father, as an inside joke to say that James Bond is the father of Indiana Jones, which I remember reading that was kind of the vibe they wanted to go with, is kind of make it like his James Bond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess if Connery didn't do it, Gregory Peck, Chris Plummer, and John Pertwee were all backup choices for the role, which I don't know offhand who John Pertwee is. I'm probably going to kick myself in the butt as soon as I figure that, but I would have totally bought Chris Glover or Christopher Plummer. I was looking at Julian Glover and Christopher Plummer. I could have totally bought Christopher Plummer. Gregory Peck.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
No, I mean, none of them sound remotely as good as the way it turned out.
Oh, okay. John Pertwee was the third Doctor in Doctor Who. That's where I recognize that name from.
Okay.
Sorry for all you Doctor Who fans that are probably going to send me hateful emails now because I didn't know who he was. I thought this was an interesting factoid. Due to filming this movie, Steven Spielberg had to drop off of Big and Rain Man.
Oh yeah. Okay. He was slated for those.
Yeah, he was in pre-production on Rain Man, I think, when he did this one.
Hmm. Okay.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. And those, I mean, actually, Rain Man, I think, is the fourth or fifth biggest film from '89.
Wow. After all of those films from '89.
Yeah, the top three, I think, were, let me go back here real quick. Batman, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Lethal Weapon 2, and then Rain Man was 4
Mm-hmm.
with $139 million. Then Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was 5th.
Okay. That's a good one too.
It is. But yeah, like I said, 1989, banger year of movies. I think it deserves a little bit more recognition in the great movie years of all time. I think it gets shit on sometimes because of I think Driving Miss Daisy won Rain Man won Best Picture that year.
Mm-hmm.
Driving Miss Daisy, I think, was the year before, which that movie fucking sucks. Rest assured, we will never do a Driving Miss Daisy episode.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Because if you decide you want to do it, I'm going to sit that one out. I good luck finding someone to do it with you.
I could probably solo it, but I don't want to.
It's just like there's been 45 minutes of dead air today. Had him talk himself to sleep, talking about Driving Miss Daisy. Harrison Ford suggested River Phoenix play him as the teenage version of Indiana Jones to Steven Spielberg, as they actually worked together on the Mosquito Coast. And I guess in preparation for the role, River Phoenix really didn't study so much Indiana Jones as he studied Harrison Ford, how he acted in his day-to-day routine. And that's kind of how he nailed the character per se.
He did a pretty good job.
Yeah, man. I think that's probably one of the biggest what ifs is if he could have kept himself together, what could have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, such a great actor. In this movie, you actually finally get to know what Indiana Jones's birth name is. This is the first film he's called Henry.
Yeah. And we figure out that Indiana was the name of the dog, and there's a dog that looks like George Lucas's dog.
The Alaskan Malamute.
Yeah. Who was also named Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Steven Spielberg is on record as saying he made this movie for 2 reasons. One, to fulfill a 3-movie obligation he had made with George Lucas, and secondly, to atone for the criticism that he received for the previous installment, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And Temple of Doom is actually one of the reasons the PG-13 rating, I think, was created, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, I'm glad that they didn't go with this, but George Lucas, when they discussed the third Indiana Jones movie, George Lucas wanted this set in a haunted mansion.
I don't think that would have been... that's probably better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but we're not even going to go into that.
Yeah. I think with those Indiana Jones movies, I think what they tried to do is set kind of the theme of the movie to go along with the time frame. Because these are more like the movie serials from the 30s and the 40s. And I think with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull taking place post World War II, kind of going into the Cold War, is when you kind of got those cheesy sci-fi movies from the 50s and the 60s.
Yeah,
I think that's the vibe they went with, but just didn't really work.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons those cheesy sci-fi serials are one of the reasons why sci-fi is looked down upon today in the film industry.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. reason they didn't go with the haunted house is Spielberg had just produced Poltergeist.
Oh, okay, yeah. He actually argued against doing Aliens in Crystal Skull too for that reason, because he's like, yeah, Aliens have already been done, George. What are we gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
And George Lucas came back with, oh, they're not aliens, they're interdimensional beings. That's no different.
I don't understand why, like, he is. I described George Lucas as Kenny Powers to an extent from the show Eastbound and Down. It's like he had a moment where, like, he was the most unstoppable force in movie making. Like, the guy could do no wrong, and then all of a sudden just loses his fucking fastball. And I don't get it. And I mean, it could be one of those things where you kind of get lazy after you sit on your laurels for too long. But man, like, it seemed like after Last Crusade, he just didn't have it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he was never a good writer per se. He was a good storyteller. He always did better when somebody else wrote the script for him, though.
Mm-hmm. The character named Fedora in the credits is played by Richard Young. In the script, he was actually supposed to be Abner Ravenwood, Marion's dad.
Okay.
And I wonder if, because for those of you that are well versed in Indiana Jones lore, Abner Ravenwood is Indiana Jones's mentor and pretty much more of a father figure to Indiana Jones than his actual dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder why they pivoted away from that.
I don't know.
Because I think it would have been kind of cool, like, if he would have at least introduced himself as that. But
that would have been cool. Yeah.
But yeah, they never did. But that's all I got. Any cool things that you found out about in your research?
Yeah, going off of Abner Ravenwood, I'll go into my first one. In the catacombs, when Indy and Elsa are down in the underneath the church, looking for the knight, they come across the painting on the wall. It's the Ark of the Covenant. And they say something funny about the Ark of the Covenant, like, "What's that?" "Oh, it's the Ark of the Covenant." "Well, how do you know that?" "Trust me, lady." But John Williams actually does something brilliant there. He starts playing part of the Ark motif there, the map room motifs, when they show the Ark of the Covenant. He does the same thing in later movies when they allude back to Raiders, but that's the first time they did it in a sequel movie, and I just love it. Every time I watch this particular movie, I always wait for that scene before I like kind of stop paying attention if I have it on in the background. I think that's a cool little allusion to the Ark of the Covenant there. Again, speaking of Raiders, they actually recycled 2 ideas from Raiders of the Lost Ark that they didn't use, both George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg wanted to use the idea that Indy had a love interest that was also a German spy in Raiders. They didn't get to do it, so they did it in this movie. And then George Lucas originally wanted Indy to travel with the archaeology professor in Raiders, because they both had like this need to go search for the Ark. But that never came to fruition either, so they used it in this movie.
Oh, okay.
The motif that Steven Spielberg was going for in this movie, aside from it being lighthearted and more jaunty than Temple of Doom, he wanted it to be about family in this movie, which is a really great theme to end a trilogy on. Just like the redemption of father and son, and that whole finding that relationship again, and then riding off into the sunset together. I feel like that's a fantastic ending, perfect ending. But he really wanted to go for that, and it really shows in the storytelling. Steven Spielberg also wanted to use Sir Laurence Olivier for the knight at the end.
Say what?
Yeah. But he was too ill to commit to the role and died shortly after this movie's release. So
I was going to say, I know he died in like 89 or 90. So, man, that'd have been so cool to have him in that.
yeah, that would have been really cool.
Now, I do know that
like a night.
I do know that the actor that they got to play him was like a stage actor who I think I can't remember the movie that he was in, but this is the first movie he had appeared in since like something in like the 1950s.
Oh, okay.
You chose wisely.
He chose poorly. Yeah. I think they did really good with the casting. I mean, even if it isn't Sir Laurence Olivier, but
not a fan of Allison Duty, the female lead in this. I don't know why.
Yeah. You don't like her?
No, well, for one thing is every like the female leads after Raiders, they have a very tough act to follow. Because let's be real, Karen Allen is like cast a very large shadow over this whole franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, she's pretty much Indy's equal in Raiders. Karen Allen's amazing in that. And then like, it's very tough for anyone to follow that. And I don't understand why she wasn't featured in the sequels at all. 'Cause, I mean, I know they brought her back for Crystal Skull in the last one, but
I do know that a lot of, I don't know if they did it for this reason, but I do know a lot of filmmakers tend, and it's kind of a chauvinistic thing to do too. I don't know, but they tend to freshen up, quote unquote, the female cast in a movie to draw more male audiences to the new movie. Like, oh, who's this new person? Versus using the old one. So,
well, Allison Duty's only 21 in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I had to nitpick the cast, it would probably be her. I mean, she's not bad in it. Just like same with like Kate Capshaw in Temple of Doom. Same thing. It's just like,
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Kate Capshaw. I would prefer Allison Duty over Kate Capshaw as a female lead, but
yeah.
I think Steven Spielberg would disagree, but that's the only person.
Yeah, he might take up some issue with that. And for those of you who don't know, Kate Capshaw is married to Steven Spielberg. So
right. Taught her how to scream in that movie too. That's kind of gross, but
I don't know why I had an inappropriate joke. I'm just going to put in the pocket.
This movie is the first movie that has a blonde, blue-eyed lady named Elsa that has to let it go and is now a film that's owned by Disney. So take that, Frozen.
That totally like blew my mind. I actually, next time I sit down and watch it, my daughter loves Frozen, and I'm going to tell her like that's Elsa right there.
Yeah, she used to be a Nazi.
Yeah, a scumbag, sweetheart. She's a scumbag.
The scene where they're in the catacombs again, they had rats. That was the gross thing of this movie. The previous ones were snakes and bugs. This one was rats. Apparently, Harrison Ford has a affinity for rats. Had some growing up as a kid. Loved rats. Had no problem with rats, so he was fine filming with them. But they ended up breeding somewhere around 2,000 rats for this movie because if they got wild rats, they would have disease and whatnot. So they specifically bred 2,000 rats for this movie, and no, they didn't catch them on fire because they're not allowed. But if you notice in the scene where they do catch fire, they are very robotic, and that's because all of them are fake rats with little propellers on the back of them so that they can move in the water. And they all catch fire and die, but that's okay because they're robot rats. Nobody likes those.
It's a perfect like like product placement tie-in, like, you know, get the Indiana Jones robot rat. The bath time toy sweeping the nation is the catacombs robot rat. If you buy enough of them, you could the character escapes me, the one that chases him on the boat.
Oh yeah. I don't remember his name either.
I never, you know, that sucks because like I remember him being kind of a cool character, and I like,
Yeah.
at least I thought he was, and then like I don't even know his name.
He reminded me of the protector character from the Mummy.
Oh,
I got to protect this at all costs.
Odette Fair, his character.
Yeah.
The Mummy. You can also listen to our thoughts on The Mummy on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcast.
Right. That's all I had.
Good stuff. The Martin Scorsese Award for the best scene of the movie. I'm going to go ahead. A lot of really cool sequences. I really dug the scene on the train with young Indy. He gets the cross and he's being chased by Fedora and his guys. I really dug that scene. But for me, it's probably the escape from the castle in Austria and that subsequent sequence where they're getting chased.
Yeah, the motorcycle scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think more than anything, it's the first face-to-face scene with Harrison and Sean Connery together.
Yeah.
And it has so many things I really like in movies, like the hidden like wall that turns into like you hit a button, it flips over like a part of the wall to another room.
Yeah.
The hidden staircase where you just like something pops up, or you can hit like a lever, like a hidden lever, and then, like the staircase comes out of nowhere. Has a really cool motorcycle chase with a sidecar, which I always dug the sidecar. And then almost immediately you could tell that like there's a real vibe with Connery and Ford together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's such a good they're such good foils for each other. It's really back and forth, and you can kind of feel the relationship between them, how they're like opposites but the same.
Yeah, and you really get like a kind of a general idea that like Indiana Jones is still struggling to like get his father's approval.
Yeah.
Because like he what was it where he's like kind of smiles and like he's proud of what he did, and then like Henry's just kind of looking at him with like disgust.
Yeah.
And plus I don't know why I've seen this movie countless times and it still makes me laugh, where because I'm counting even like where they're on the Zeppelin. I mean, I know it's like it's probably cheating a little bit, but I just where they're trying to, well, the escape from the castle, but I also dig the scene where they're in the Zeppelin and they escape in the airplane, and
no.
and then Henry Senior has to like man the gun in the back, and he's trying to shoot the German plane, and he ends up hitting the back, the tail end of their plane, and he says, "Well, they got us."
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, son.
But I think for me it's just the castle, and plus you get Harrison Ford. I don't know, I might be reading into it too much, but I think it's kind of amusing that his father is probably the most famous Scottish actor of all time in Sean Connery, and he does that horrible fucking Scottish accent, Sir Clarence MacDonald.
We're here to look at the tapestries.
But yeah, I think the escape from the castle is probably my favorite sequence in the movie, out of tons of really good ones.
Yeah, there's so many good ones. I love the ending sequence, Penitent Man Will Pass and Leap of Faith and He Chose Poorly. I like the Zeppelin scene. Bonus fun fact, even though it was the last category, they filmed that scene without pants on, both of them, because it was too hot and Sean Connery didn't want to sweat too much.
Oh, yeah, I did see something about that because of his wardrobe was very breathable.
Yeah. And I love the comedy that they sprinkle throughout those scenes of the castle escape. Like, I don't know why. It always makes me laugh when the wingless plane is going through the tunnel and it's on fire. And the Nazi pilot is just looking at it, just kind of confused. And he's not scared or anything. He's just like, huh, okay. And he goes out of the tunnel and blows up.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. He's just like, all right, this is life now. And then I also like the no ticket, and everybody like whips out their tickets, and yeah, and of course, I'm not gonna lie to you, son, they got us. Such a good.
Are we counting the? Are we counting the Zeppelin scene and the escape from the castle as one gigantic sequence? Then
it's gotta be one, because they're still escaping Germany at that point.
Yeah,
they haven't left Germany yet. But see, then like, where do we stop it at? Because they decide to stay in Germany for the book burning scene.
Mm-hmm.
They get smacked for blasphemy. The book burning scene, also bonus fact, all of the Nazi uniforms in that scene are authentic.
Oh, wow.
The costume designer found a bunch of them in Germany, and they decided to use them for the film.
I wonder how you put a wanted ad for that in the local newspaper.
You can't put that in the local newspaper. It's like, do you have an old Nazi uniform lying in your closet?
Wanted Nazi uniforms for film. Willing to pay
Film
top dollar.
Only.
It's like, okay, yeah, sure, a movie.
Mm-hmm, sure. But yeah, no, we got to give it to the castle scene and the escape scene. It's so good, and the musical score for the motorcycle chase is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say we'll just call this one the race to get the diary back sequence, because they have to escape from the castle. They have to go back to Germany to get the book or the diary, and then they have to leave Germany to get to Marcus, and then okay, we'll just call it that one gigantic long sequence. We cheated a little bit, but so what? It's our show.
It's a third of the movie, but it's fine.
Yeah. And if I had a minor gripe, I don't like how they made Marcus Brody kind of a buffoon in this.
Yeah. He seemed more put together in Raiders, and this one he seemed kind of like he was literally drunk all the time.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll call that. We'll have to come up with a new category for we have gripes about the movie, even if it's good.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't mean to complain, but something like that. We'll come up with something.
Yeah.
The Andy Dufresne "Get Busy Living" or "Get Busy Dying" award for the best or most quotable line of the movie. I actually really like the line is after River Phoenix has to give up the cross. He gives it to the sheriff, and then they don't really say the character's name, but they just call him Fedora.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, "You lost today, kid. Doesn't mean you have to like it."
Yeah, that's a good line.
Yeah.
That's a really good line.
The only other one, and it's not really quotable, but like I used it a lot when I was younger, is during 4th of July, I'd always make the line that's like, "The floor's on fire."
That's a good line too. I like those. I like He Chose Poorly.
Yeah, I think amongst our group of friends, we have used that one quite a bit.
Yeah. And then I do like It Belongs in a Museum. That's actually one of the category names.
Well,
of our show.
now that you bring that up, I think we have to use that as because I mean we like it so much that we created a category using that particular line.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it belongs in the museum because they use that line in this one more than they do in anything else. Because shit, in the first 20 minutes they say it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they have Mutt say it once in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I'm pretty sure it's been quoted again just as a movie reference in some other media. I don't remember what it was, but I remember hearing it in something else.
Mutt, who's that?
The Indiana Jones kid.
Oh, Indiana Jones has a son?
Well, we don't like to talk about that movie, so no, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, like you don't talk about Bruno, we don't talk about Mutt either.
Yeah.
I think he gets kind of like, it sucks, but he's probably one of the worst things about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I was actually, with that movie, I don't know why we've brought this up a bunch, but I actually don't hate that movie as much as some people, but I still don't. It's kind of like it has Godfather 3 syndrome to an extent, is when you compare it to the rest of them, it's kind of a weak movie. But Shia LaBeouf and the CGI monkeys are...
Yeah, that's terrible. Plus, it actually spawned a new catchphrase. So people are... I don't know if our listeners are, but people are aware of the term jump the shark from Fonzie. But that phrase got replaced with nuke the fridge from Indiana Jones.
I don't know why I was expecting the whole time to say jump the Mutt.
Jump the Mutt. Yeah. Nuke the fridge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because that would help. You know, getting in a refrigerator.
Yeah. Jump the Mutt could mean anything. But so we're giving it to It Belongs in a Museum.
It belongs in a museum.
All right. I think this next category, I think this is a slam dunk. The McLovin for best supporting or scene stealing performance. It has to be River Phoenix's young Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, they did so much in that scene. They explained why he was afraid of snakes, and they even did the bit to give him the scar that Harrison Ford had from his car accident.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he studied Harrison Ford, like, to get his mannerisms down.
And plus, River Phoenix is fucking awesome. So
yeah, for sure. And he definitely qualifies for this, even though he plays Indiana Jones, because he's not in the movie that long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's really not a lot to cherry pick because, I mean, obviously this is Connery and Ford's show, but, I mean, the rest of the cast, the primary cast, it's pretty much like 5 or 6 featured players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think River Phoenix is the easy choice for this one.
Yeah.
Man,
the only other character that would even come close is maybe Walter Donovan, but he's not even a likable character. So,
no, you know, honestly, Julian Glover, he's up for an award in the next category, but I really wasn't fond of his villain in this.
Yeah, no, he was a better Imperial soldier than he was Indiana Jones villain.
Yeah, because I mean, for all the shit that it got, I really dug Cate Blanchett's Russian.
Oh yeah,
that she's probably one of the shining spots of that movie.
Yeah.
Mola Ram is fucking awesome because he could rip your fucking.
Is a great villain.
He could fucking rip your heart out. And to this day, still kind of a scary villain. But yeah, I don't know why he's not really featured enough to be the villain. I mean, if you get the introduction of him, well, we'll save it for the next category because he's a nominee.
Yeah. Okay.
But the next category is the IMDb Drug Dealer #2 award for the actor or actress you have seen in a movie, but you don't know who it is. Julian Glover is one of my nominees. You probably remember him best in Empire Strikes Back as General Veers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But as a villain, I mean, he's kind of weak.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at just the even in the Dial of Destiny, I mean, they got fucking Mads Mikkelsen, who is just fucking awesome in anything.
Yeah. He was a good villain.
So
that movie was one of the movies of all time, but he's a great villain in it.
That's a good way to look at it. But yeah, I think in terms of the indie villains, he's kind of the weakest one, and I just don't. He doesn't really give off the villain vibes that much. I can't think of the villain, the Nazi soldier. Isn't it Vogel? The main Nazi colonel.
Yeah.
He's more of a villain in this than Walter Donovan. I mean,
Elsa's more of a villain.
Yeah,
to be honest,
she's a 2-time hussy. But
hey, Adolf Hitler is in this, and he's more of a villain.
Yeah, I mean, he is the ultimate villain in this for sure. The only other nominee I had was you may recognize the name and the voice, but you don't really recognize him. John Rhys-Davies is Gimli in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah, but
you don't really. I mean, he's in makeup in the Lord of the Rings, so I don't think that really counts.
And plus, like he's more of a well-known actor, I think, from the Lord of the Rings to be considered like, you know, the IMDb drug dealer.
Yeah,
like
you could also Alison Doody. The only thing I've ever seen her in besides Last Crusade is she was in Major League 2. She was Charlie Sheen's girlfriend.
Okay.
In that one. And that's the only other thing I've ever seen her in. But I'd say probably Julian Glover.
I agree.
Either that or that one guy, I don't know, he plays Indy's dad. I've seen him in something before.
Yeah, and some old spy movie.
Yeah. And he has a Scottish accent in everything, even when he plays a Russian. I don't know, that was like a nitpick when I seen The Hunt for Red October. I was like, he's got a fucking Scottish accent. He's supposed to be a fucking Russian submarine commander.
You don't direct Sean Connery. Sean Connery directs you.
Well, that's actually something that he's notorious for when he signs on for movies is once he signs on, he's got notes on how he feels or what the character should be, and then they kind of incorporate some of that into it.
Okay.
So, but I mean, he's Sean Connery. I mean, come on.
I think he was the reason why Steven Spielberg decided that Elsa was going to have a relationship with both of them because he thought it was funny.
Well, Sean Connery is a goddamn handsome man. He won People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. And he's looked like he's looked 60s for probably 20, like even like 10 years before Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah.
And he looked that same age up until the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, he was on that same medication that Betty White was, just like anti-age.
Yeah. So we're giving this the IMDb to Julian Glover because he was in a Star Wars movie. He was in Empire Strikes Back.
He was in that one sci-fi movie that nobody watched.
Yeah. With the light swords and the Force and all that jazz.
And that bad guy with asthma.
Yeah, the asthmatic villain. And that talking lizard. And that giant walking dog. And Indiana Jones. Most 1989 moment of the movie. I would say this is probably one of the last times that like Nazis were featured as like villains, like the primary villains in a movie. Because it seemed like they started going away from that during, because it was cool to make, you know, the bad guys from Middle Eastern countries as bad guys during this time frame. So
they sometimes it was Russians from the Cold War perspective, but even then, like in '89, the wall came down, and like Russians weren't the bad guys very much in movies anymore.
Yeah, now it's rich white dudes, which is how it should be.
Yep.
Unless there's one of those rich white dudes wants to pay for the show,
then you won't be a villain, and you'll be heralded as a hero.
Hooray! But I mean, do you have anything that stood out to you that's like kind of freezes this movie in 1989?
Yeah. So, and this is true with all the Indiana Jones movies, but the practical effects in this movie are very, very good, and so is the lighting. Like the lighting was fantastic. I think I liked it a lot better in Raiders, but when we get into the early 90s is when we start seeing more CG in movies with Jurassic Park and what have you. But the practical effects in this movie are fantastic.
Yeah, well, they even did away with them in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I mean, for God's sakes, the fucking monkeys are all CGI, and they look awful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the aesthetic, one of the staple aesthetics for Indiana Jones is moody lighting and practical effects that are captured like in camera.
Right.
I think that's just one. When you think of stunt doubles and action movies, like this is one of the movie franchises that I think of first too, aside from, like Mission Impossible and those types of action movies. But like when you think of action adventure, like, yeah, this had like stunts and stuff captured in camera, explosions. Like, yeah, that's probably my favorite 1989 thing about this movie.
Well, Harrison Ford was Tom Cruise before Tom Cruise was Tom Cruise, because he did a lot of his own stunts in these movies too.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not asking Harrison Ford at his age to fucking, get thrown off of a horse.
Right.
But you could hire a damn stuntman to do that.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm not asking for that, but I also, do you even have to have a bunch of fucking pissed off monkeys chasing after her? Maybe you don't have to do that. You can just make them something else.
No. Exactly.
Yeah, they CGI'd the shit out of that one, and it's unfortunate. That's a good call, actually, because it's Indiana Jones was like, well, fuck, the stunts are such a staple of that franchise that Disney has an attraction at Disney World devoted to. It's called the Indiana Jones Stunt Show.
Yeah, it's fantastic for people that I'm not like endorsed by Disney or like am encouraging you to spend thousands of dollars to go to Disney World, but definitely do if you can, because that show is fantastic.
Yeah, the time that I went, it was actually shut down.
That sucks.
Yeah, because like when we planned our trip to Disney, we went to the Hollywood Studios, and I'm like, I told my son, like, if I get to go to Star Wars and I get to go to the Indiana Jones stunt show, this trip is a success. And I did not get the Indiana Jones stunt show, nor did I get to ride the Rise of the Resistance ride, which you got to when you went down there a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I'll live vicariously through you.
Man, that stunt show, like they introduce you to the stunt guys with the boulder sequence. So like you actually get to see Indiana Jones go through the boulder sequence, and then after that they have the spears come up through the floor, and it's all like legit. I actually am on the edge of my seat, because you think like, oh shoot, he's gonna get a spear through his junk, and then They do all the pyrotechnics there on stage. They even have a full-size plane that they wheel out, and they fist fight in front of the airplane. And they actually have the trap door in the bottom of the floor for the guy to get torn up by the airplane. But they do it in such a way that they actually spray like this pink mist, so it looks like he gets shredded.
Oh, damn it. It's so cool.
It's cool.
Well, next time I'm in Disney, I am going to make it a point to go.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Which we promised my daughter a Disney trip, so after I get to see the Disney princesses and stuff, I'm going to make it a point to try to go to that again. But yeah, that's a good call with the practical effects, and it seems like that's like kind of the last era that was really like used. Like you said, Jurassic Park was kind of like the Kickstarter for the CGI, and it's never been the same.
No, and I'm not knocking Jurassic Park or anything.
Oh no,
CGI is okay when you use it correctly.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jurassic Park is when you use CGI the way it's supposed to. Because I mean, there's plenty of dinosaur like wranglers out there in the United States, and I hope that someone listening to this like there is. Where are they at? But no, but like that's. And the fact that movie still looks fantastic, almost 30 years after the fact.
Yeah.
The Indiana Jones, it belongs in your museum award for the prop that you would want for your personal collection. Now, right out of the box, I'm going to disqualify the whip and the fedora because that's the obvious answer.
Yeah.
You can't use those two. For this particular
now, do we have to give the award to the cross, the crucifix amulet at the beginning because it's the namesake, or are we disqualifying?
No, my nominee is actually not that at all.
Okay,
I know when we discussed doing this, you had mentioned that, but no, the thing that I would want is Henry Jones' Diary.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
Or the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
I think the Holy Grail is the winner.
Sparkly one.
Yeah, the actual one that falls in the...
Yeah.
Man.
Let it go, Elsa.
And then he let her... Yeah. Okay. It's probably the fact we're recording this at 9:53 at night and starting to get a little lagged, but it took me a second to catch on to that. And how hilarious would that be if that was like actually a thing, and like people that did Frozen, like, Elsa, blonde, blue-eyed, European lady, let it go. And it's like the mind just starts turning. I'm going to say probably the Holy Grail.
Yeah,
because I would be
it's from MacGuffin.
Yeah, perfectly honest, if I had the Holy Grail, that would probably be my go-to coffee cup. I would drink coffee out of that thing seriously every fucking day. And then I would put it into it.
The Holy Grail.
Yeah. Now they should have that as like merchandise at Disney. Like Disney.
They should.
Yeah, like buy a Holy Grail like goblet. Oh man, I would fucking buy that in a heartbeat.
I've seen so many fedoras, so many whips that you can buy at Disney World. There's like pieces of treasure that you can buy. I think you can even buy the golden monkey head from the first one, but I have never seen the Holy Grail. Maybe they want to stay away from like religious artifacts or whatever. I don't know, but
it could be.
That would be cool to buy.
I'm going to look that up tonight, or if someone wants to email the show, which is in the show notes, if you can buy those, let me know. I will fucking totally buy one.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Or if you want to hook Adam and I up with two, send you a P.O. box. Send those bad boys too, so we can drink our coffee and other beverages out of it. And keep doing this show for centuries.
We'll live forever, but only within the seal of the Grail. The size limit on these, is there a size limit for the prop that's used in the movie?
I would say it has to be something that you could physically bring into your house without having to like not cut a section of your house out to get it in. So like obviously you're not gonna be able, like, if it was anything, the fucking blimp or the Zeppelin would be pretty cool. But
that would be cool.
Whatever happened to Zeppelin?
I was going to say the tank. The tank at the end.
Yeah. I mean, that would be something I would drive to work here. That would be my daily driver right there.
Yeah. I mean, I could put it in my garage. I wouldn't have to cut a hole in my house. So would that fit the size requirement?
How would you show it off, though?
I'd probably drive it, drive it down the street.
Where's the reverse at in this thing? And just hit it fucking right through your fucking, like, your back room. I mean, yeah, I guess the tank would work.
Okay. Okay, so if I can't have the tank, though, I would pick the motorcycle then.
Okay, that's cool, too.
Yeah.
With a sidecar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Both good choices. I mean, yeah, I'm sticking with the Holy Grail, though. Because that thing would get fucking, it just wouldn't be on display. It would be part of my everyday life.
Yeah. But you were saying about Zeppelins. You don't see Zeppelins anymore.
Yeah, like whatever happened to the Zeppelin as a mode of transportation? Did the Hindenburg kind of kill that? I mean, I should have saved this for burning questions, but yeah, like.
I think, the Hindenburg kind of soured people on the idea of flight with very flammable gas.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, no, I don't want to burn to death in the sky. Oh, the humanity.
One of my favorite wrestlers, Danhausen, is actually trying to make the blimp come back. He always demands that in his contract, is he wants a blimp.
I mean, blimps are still flown, so I mean, just not a Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm willing to bet that the Hindenburg is like, let's find a different way to fly in the air. Like, we got these planes, and yeah, let's stay away from and I bet they don't move very fast either. They look like they're very slow moving.
Yeah, and yeah, I think the Hindenburg burned that bridge of.
Yeah, it's done. All right, so you're taking the tank.
Yep.
I'm taking the Holy Grail. Okay.
Yep.
If you do get a tank, let me know. I've always wanted to ride in one. Like, not like sit in one, like actually fucking ride in one.
Yeah. I mean, you can also man the turret too after you ride in one. So like,
yeah, put me on that. I'll make it happen. Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame plaque. This is where performers, directors, producers, if there was a actual movie Hall of Fame, and during their induction ceremony, would this particular movie be engraved on their Hall of Fame plaque? Harrison Ford, obviously, as much as we love Last Crusade, I can't see them putting this movie on his Hall of Fame plaque. It's either got to be Star Wars or Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders is the more recognizable Indiana Jones film, I think, for Harrison Ford. And
we have to do, like, just after I did the research, like, I was looking at Harrison Ford's like filmography. I know we done a Tom Hanks Hall of Fame. We have to do Harrison Ford here soon.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Because I don't know how we can narrow that down to 10.
You know what? It's going to happen one way or the other. We're going to have to do it if we decide to do that episode.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one. Post James Bond, Sean Connery.
Well, I mean, yes, probably. Because we have The Rock. We also have the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Well, just rattle off some of the movies that he done. post James Bond that people may or may not know. He won an Academy Award for The Untouchables.
Yeah,
which is
true.
actually my favorite non-James Bond role of Sean Connery is The Untouchables. I fucking adore that movie. We need to do that sometime on this show.
Yeah.
He done The Rock, which we have done on this show. It's the very first episode, as a matter of fact. And you can listen to that on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. He's done Hunt for Red October.
Mm-hmm.
He did Rising Sun. That movie, I don't even remember that. See, I'm trying to look up his. Oh, what was that movie he did with It's the one where Catherine Zeta-Jones came into the. It was right after her Zorro movie. Oh fuck! What was that?
Didn't he?
Oh, Entrapment. That was it.
He also played. He played the king in something.
Oh, he was. Well, he actually done two. King. I think it was King Arthur performances.
First Night.
He was First Night.
First Night, yeah.
And he does that cameo in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, as King Richard.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he done The Untouchables, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, The Hunt for Red October, The Russia House, which I don't really remember, The Rock, and Entrapment. And then he also did Finding Forrester. But I would say, I would say actually, as much as I like The Untouchables, I think it would be The Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because he's pretty much carrying that movie on his own. I mean, it's got Alec Baldwin, but Alec Baldwin's not really a star yet. And it's kind of like his star power is carrying that movie. The Rock, I mean, The Rock is awesome. It was a contender for our action movie Hall of Fame, but Nicolas Cage has just as much to do with The Rock being good as Sean Connery does. So that's why I would say The Hunt for Red October over The Untouchables, even though it is he did win an Oscar for that, but I think it's Hunt for Red October.
I think he's most recognizable for that post James Bond. So even if you include Last Crusade and The Untouchables. So yeah, I would agree with you. It's not Indiana Jones anyway, so
yeah. Spielberg, obviously, no, that I can't even begin to fucking fathom what would be.
He's done so much.
Yeah. And like I even like looking at his like just his films that he's directed, it seems like he kind of has, this is probably the last movie that he did before he kind of started gravitating more towards like adult oriented movies. Because I think after this he does Always, which has Richard Dreyfuss, who's making tons of news for all the wrong reasons here recently, and Holly Hunter and John Goodman. Then of course he has Jurassic Park and Schindler's List coming up, and then he's going into more. I guess I've always looked at his movies as kind of like an adult child, if it making a movie. You know, like he has like, you know, you become friends with an alien, you know, spacemen from outer space, like he does a monster movie, but it's like a shark. So the adventure, you know, like the hero adventure type. So yeah, I would say definitely not this one either, but it's really hard to narrow that down.
We probably should. I know we did it with Tom Hanks, and we've talked about doing it with Harrison Ford and probably other actors, but we should probably do a director Hall of Fame episodes too. I think that would be a good idea.
You know what? As a matter of fact, why don't we do Spielberg next? That'll be the next one.
I think that.
Because I think
That'll be
he
good.
would be tougher than Harrison Ford just to not narrow down to 10.
Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's 5 or 6 that are surefire ones, and then it's going to be really fun trying to get those last 4.
Oh, yeah, for
Because he's
sure.
got a couple post late 90s, early 2000 movies that are absolute fucking bangers that he doesn't really get enough credit for.
Right.
So, yeah, let's do Spielberg next. That'll be fun.
Okay.
All right, burning questions. These are some questions about the movie that we didn't cover in the episode. What is, in your opinion, the best Indiana Jones quest out of all 5 of the movies? Was it the Ark? Was it the what are those? I forget. I haven't seen Temple of Doom in a long time, so you have to forgive me. The stones from the Temple of Doom.
Yeah, the Shankara stones.
Okay. The Grail, the Crystal Skull, or the Dial of Destiny. What one's your favorite?
I think nostalgia wants me to pick the Ark of the Covenant, right? But and I think Steven Spielberg said it best. The quest for the Grail becomes the quest for his father in the last Crusade. That's probably the most poignant MacGuffin. Mm-hmm. I really want to say the Ark of the Covenant, but I'm going to have to go with the Grail.
I was going to say this one too, for that reason.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that at the end of the day, I mean, it's more about trying to connect with his father.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you know, as you and I have gotten older, I mean, I'm sure like there's been times where you struggle to kind of, when you grow old, you become your own person and you don't have that same connection with your parents. I mean, you still love them, you'll still, you know, but it's not like it was when you were a kid. And right. Even as a kid, Indiana Jones didn't have the greatest relationship with his dad either. So,
right, and he's striving for that literally his entire life, and then this movie
he just wants to be accepted.
Right. Yeah, this movie is the perfect encapsulation of that. It's not the quest for the Holy Grail so much as it's the quest to reunite with his father. Yeah,
which it's from what I've read about Spielberg, that's always been a thing. He's always tried to gain the acceptance of his dad, because I think that was the point of the Fabelmans, a movie he did a couple of years ago, which kind of digs into that a little deeper.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it's the Grail.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Grail too. How do you feel about them trying to do, because I know there's been talk of rebooting Indiana Jones. I know there was rumors for a while that Chris Pratt was going to take over as Indiana Jones, which I thought at first was an intriguing idea, but now as obviously not going to be a thing now, and the more I thought about it, the more and more I don't like that idea.
Yeah.
But they did it as a TV show. But how would you feel if they were ever to reboot Indiana Jones, they did the young Indiana Jones?
You know, I wouldn't mind that. The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones wasn't bad either.
Oh, I loved that show as a kid.
Yeah. That was really good. I would have no qualms with them trying to reboot the Young Indiana Jones series. I don't know who they would cast as Indy, but
I think you'd have to go with an unknown.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely be behind that.
Because, I mean, yeah, anybody that's a well-known actor you've got the shadow of Harrison Ford. I mean, like looming large over that.
Now that brings me to one of my burning questions then, because this is just right off the riff. Who would you cast as Indiana Jones if they rebooted it now? Not Chris Pratt, obviously, because we've said that's not a good idea. But
I personally would not touch this. There's certain characters And there's certain movies that don't need to be rebooted. They don't need to be touched. And this is one of them.
Okay.
I mean, I couldn't even begin to think of who would be. Because for one thing is what always made Harrison, to me anyways, what always made Harrison Ford such an incredible actor is the fact that he was a good actor. He's very handsome, but he also looks like the guy that if you were sitting in a bar, he would be sitting across the bar having a beer after working like a 12-hour shift at a steel mill.
Yeah.
He had that everyman quality that like certain people just don't have. Like if you look at Tom Cruise as an example, Tom Cruise is a movie star. There's like no way you'd ever run into Tom Cruise at a bar or like a restaurant or anything like that. Like Tom Cruise is the epitome of a movie star. Harrison Ford's that too, but Harrison Ford also has that everyman quality that certain people just, no matter how hard they try, they just can't do it.
Yeah.
Or they don't have it.
The only other person I think would have that as a movie star, and we've talked about it before on different podcasts, but episodes, but is Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Bruce Willis had that too. Yeah,
but yeah, no, you're right. I think that everyman quality is hard to capture.
But to answer the question, I really don't know. I could maybe see Chris Pine doing it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he does a little bit of it, the little bit of that in Wonder Woman. But I mean, even that, it's probably grasping for straws just to answer your question. But
I might get a lot of crap from this, for this, but I had a thought about who would play Indiana Jones. And before I get attacked by listeners or by you, I don't know. You might agree with me though. I don't know. Robert Pattinson is a fantastic actor, and I think he'd be able to pull it off.
I'm actually looking up like an article to see if they ever recast Indiana Jones, who would play it. This is from Screen Rant, an article in 2023. Some of the people that they had, Michael Fassbender. I love Michael Fassbender, but I don't. Let's see. Now I thought of this guy. Carl Urban would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
I adore Carl Urban. He's like one of my favorite character actors. I could maybe see him doing it.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal. Can we save like roles for other actors? There's more than just one guy in Hollywood. Okay, gang.
Yeah, he's playing everybody right now.
Yeah, you can't cast him in everything. Alexander Skarsgård's too handsome to be Indiana Jones. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't really cast anybody. Your choice is interesting, though.
I think he could pull it off.
You think
he's a fantastic actor? Yeah.
Oh, I'd agree.
He pulled off Batman. Yeah, that was it for me. Like I knew that he was a good actor before Batman, even after like the Twilight movies kind of soiled his starring roles and his debut into acting. Aside from like that small Harry Potter role he had, but fantastic actor. And then he did Batman, and I was like, man, he pulled that off. That's fantastic. And then all the other movies that he did afterwards, The Lighthouse and he was great in Tenet. He was the best part about Tenet. Also a movie that you can listen to here on the Couch Potato Podcast.
This has got to be a record.
It is.
But I don't. The thing that I have against Pattinson is, with the exception of Tenet, if he kind of brings that kind of vibe, I can kind of see it. But if it's anything like Batman or some of the other stuff he's done, he sometimes could be a bit too. He does brooding very well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want a brooding Indiana Jones.
Yeah. We got brooding Indiana Jones for like a second in the first movie when he thought Marion was dead.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Well, if you haven't seen Indiana Jones at this point, or if you haven't seen Raiders at this point, I don't know what to fucking tell you. That movie's older than I am. Almost older than I am. But no, I can't. I can't really recast him.
I wouldn't either, to be honest. I'm a very huge advocate of Hollywood pursuing new IPs nowadays. So yeah, just let Indiana Jones be.
I've always been, if it deserves a reboot or a reimagining for contemporary audiences, then yeah. But I think there has to be a good reason to do it. But with Indiana Jones, like nothing in Indiana Jones is outdated.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, would you remake Star Wars? No, I personally would not even attempt that.
It's one of those things where it's like, why are they remaking the good movies when they should be remaking the bad movies?
That's a very good point. They should be doing that.
Yeah. Like Ocean's 11, the original. I'm sorry. Sorry, everyone who likes the original Ocean's 11. It's a terrible movie compared to the remake.
I don't know a single person that likes the original Ocean's 11.
I don't think I do either.
Our friend Steven, who's been on the show a couple of times, he was at one point was a huge Rat Pack fan. Love those guys. Like worshipped their, like he just thought that they were the epitome of cool. He does not like the original Ocean's 11 either.
Actually, I think he did the Ocean's 11 episode with him.
He did do that because him and I went and seen that in the movie theater together, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only other question I had is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade the best third film in a franchise? Because usually what happens is the original is usually like hailed as a classic, and either with sequels, either you get one like The Dark Knight or Aliens or something that's on par or surpasses the original, or you get one that's a little bit of a letdown, like say Ocean's 12. And then with the third one, it usually suffers the same thing. It's either like, okay, they can't really keep up the momentum, or they're able to at least be as good as or better than the second one. But this one seems to be, at least from most people that I know, very, very close to Raiders in terms of how much people like it.
So
before you answer,
I know one person. Okay.
Before you answer, and before you give me the person you're talking about, the only movies that I could think of that would be contenders for this would be Avengers: Infinity War. But I don't know if that would really count because that's part of a huge scale of movies that are not just intertwined into the Avengers saga. It's like almost 20. John Wick 3. Back to the Future 3, which I don't know. I've kind of come recent years. Like I still love all three of them, but I think Back to the Future 3 is probably the weakest of the three now. I used to think it was 2, but I've really come around to 2.
It's the weakest of the three. I'll just leave it there. I don't want to get into an argument about how good the third one is. It's not my favorite.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing something. Godfather 3 is obviously a big letdown. Like I'm trying to just think of some like The Dark Knight Rises, but it's not on par with. I think it's the weakest of the three Nolan Batman movies.
It is.
I don't know, man. Like I've always felt that you could not end a film series any better than they did with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
So I know one person that'll agree with me on this, and you might not. I don't know. But I know Lucas will agree with me on this. It is not Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is second. Return of the King is the best third film in a 3-movie franchise.
Okay. I'll give you that one. That one would be the one for sure.
Yeah.
But it's also Return of the King is not my favorite of the Lord of the Rings movies, though. I love the Two Towers the best.
My favorite is Fellowship of the Ring. So, but they're all very, very good films. Like all three are good on their own without the other two, and they're just fantastic movies. So that wins the top spot.
Yeah, that would be it too. Yeah, I can't argue that one.
Yeah, but Indiana Jones very close second for best third film in a trilogy for sure, or at least a movie franchise.
Mm-hmm. Finding Forrester, You're the Man Now Dog Award for the biggest life lesson taken from this movie. Got anything that you've incorporated into your daily life that you took away from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
Always choose wisely.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Don't choose poorly, choose wisely. And that's in anything. Always make the right decision.
Yeah.
Like,
think about your choice before you make it, you know?
Yeah, like, hey, you know what? You're sitting at a bar. You don't need that 6th beer. Or if you want a 6th beer, you got a phone now. You can, get an Uber or a Lyft. If you're lactose intolerant, skip the mac and cheese, no matter how good it looks.
Yeah. Yep.
Just always choose wisely.
And always choose your Holy Grail cup as your coffee cup.
Yeah. So, once again, gang, if you know where I can find the Holy Grail, a replica, I don't need the real thing. I don't have that kind of money. If you know anybody that sells like replica Holy Grails, shoot us an email. I'd like to get in touch with said person. So, but I think that's going to wrap it up, man. Awesome revisiting Indiana Jones. This will probably be the last Indiana Jones movie we do on the show. I can't really see us doing Temple of Doom, and I'm not going down the road of the Crystal Skull or the Dial of Destiny. Not happening.
Maybe we'll incorporate Indiana Jones into another themed episode of the podcast. But yeah.
Maybe we'll do a bracket style best trilogies episode around basketball time, but that's still a ways off. So,
right.
Thanks for listening, gang. We do appreciate it. You can listen to the show on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. We are on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and we have just been added to YouTube. You can find those links in the show description below. If you dug what you heard here on the show today, please, please, please take a brief moment to leave us some feedback on Apple Podcast. Lets us know how we're doing, what we can do to improve. So we do appreciate that. So until next week, guys and gals, we will talk to you later.